And I am a doctoral scholar of the 2019 FPM batch at Birla Institute of Management Technology of BIMTech. And I'm delighted to extend a warm welcome to all of you for joining this orientation program. This is the 8th batch of Fellow Program in Management on behalf of the Center for Research Studies here at BIMTech. Before we start, I'd just like to iterate a few housekeeping rules to conduct this program smoothly. Request you all to kindly keep your audio on mute so that we do not have any background noises. Also, if you have any questions, we would like it to be a very interactive session. Please drop it in the chat box and we'll have a scheduled Q&A session in which we'll take the questions. Thank you so much. And let's start the program today. So this is a day of commencement and we are delighted to have our new batch of scholars. The overarching goal over here, the overarching goal of research here, especially in management science, has been to inform decision making and create new knowledge. It involves relentless rigor and a lot of topical relevance, which paves your journey as a doctoral scholar. And to introduce you to the same, I'd request Dr. Shubhanjan Sen Gupta. He's assistant professor in strategy, innovation, and entrepreneurship, and the program coordinator for the Center for Research Studies at BIMTech. Request Professor Sen Gupta to kindly welcome you all and introduce you to the fellow program in management. May I please request you to take over, sir?
Thank you, Gayatri. So I'll just share my screen now.
Shukla sir, your mic is out.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Professor, you're audible.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
Yes, I would request everyone to please, as we said, to keep yourselves in mute. When someone is speaking, then that person can unmute and talk. Thank you very much for understanding. Finally, this day is here, and the Center for Research Studies at BIMTech welcomes the new batch of the FPM and the EFPM program. As you know, that our chief guest today needs little mention and introduction. He is the Padma Bhushan Professor Jagdish Shet, and we're very fortunate to have him here as a chief guest. He will be joining in sometime soon, probably at around 8 or before 8. And it is very good that you have an opportunity to have an interaction with him today. We're very fortunate that you agreed, and very soon we are going to have our conversation with him. He's the Charles Kelstad Professor of Marketing at Emory University and a global, a national and international figure in marketing. Once again, on behalf of the senior management at BIMTech, we welcome the new fellows of the fellow program in management. On behalf of Professor Harivansh Chaturvedi, who is the director of the institute, I welcome all of you. And he is one person whose lifelong dedication has built this institute, this great institution which it is today, of which you are now a part. He's a professor of strategy, and he holds some very important roles nationally and internationally as part of UN Global Compact, as the president of EPSI. So sir will be joining us also very soon to have an interaction with all of you. I also welcome you on behalf of Professor Anupam Verma. We are very happy to have him here today. He's your Deputy Director and Dean Academics. He's a professor with specialty in international business. And sir has also been a key member in the CII National Committee for two things: international trade policy and exports and imports. Sir, we are very happy to have you here, and please bless our new fellows. I also welcome you on behalf of Professor Dr. Anudita Sahai. We are very happy to have you here, sir. He's the Dean Research and the Professor of Strategy at BIMTech, a multi-talented person. He has been a turnaround manager, a corporate entrepreneur, a researcher, an educator, and the person who's spearheading the future of BIMTech in research. I also welcome you on behalf of Professor Dr. K.C. Arora. He is the registrar of the institute, and his specialty as a professor is in finance. Well, he has been a CFO of a major bank in Singapore in his career. He has an illustrious 25 years of career in finance in the industry and almost 15 years in academia. We're very happy to welcome you on behalf of Professor Arora. And finally, we also have Professor Chari with us. He's a professor of operation management, and we're very happy to have him here today to welcome you and to bless you. He is a person who is known globally in terms of sustainability and a very practical application of sustainability. So once again, on behalf of the senior management, welcome to BIMTech. Sorry, I just admitted a faculty, and that's why I stopped. Yeah. So finally, also from the behalf of the Center for Research Studies, we welcome the new batch of fellows. Professor Sahai, who is the Dean Research, who is leading the research at BIMTech. He inspires all of us in order to excel in the research in the fellow program and overall in the institute. We are very happy to also introduce you to Professor Dr. Arvind Shukla. He's the chairperson of this center and also the fellow program in management. He's a professor of marketing with specialty in customer relationship management and consumer behavior. And sir is an extremely supportive and understanding senior. It is a great pleasure to work as a coordinator in this program with Professor Shukla. I'm an assistant professor in this institute in the strategy, innovation, entrepreneurship area. And we are very happy to also being assisted by Mr. Shivendra Singh, with whom many of you have already interacted, and a great person who supports us in this program. Needless to mention, we also welcome you on behalf of Mr. Ajit Singh Ratan, who is the manager to the Office of Dean Research, a very polite, nice, and helpful individual. So this is a great team that welcomes the new fellows into the fellow program and the executive fellow program in management at BIMTech. And definitely goes without saying that the entire BIMTech family of faculty, scholars, staff, and our fellow program alumni, many of them are already here in this very meeting, in this very program, in order to welcome our new fellows into a very interesting and exciting journey ahead. So, I mean, very, very noteworthy. Some of our senior faculty, I'm very happy that they are here, and they're here to welcome our fellows in the new batch of our fellows. For example, we have Professor G.N. Patel, we have Professor Jagdish Shettigar, we have Professor Gagan Katia, Professor Avijit Chattaraj, Professor Girish Jain, Professor A.K. Day, Professor Rahul Singh, Professor Himanshi Tiwari, Professor Jay Gupta, Professor Kapil Garg, and so many more of them. These are all fantastic professors and guides in this institute, and we all welcome the new fellows. We have our scholars here. Over a period of the next few years, we'll be interacting with the current scholars. Some of our alumni are also here. So welcome the new batch to the start of a very interesting journey. So now I'm also supposed to give a brief about the program learning goals and the learning objectives. So this is just a brief of what it is, but then very soon you will be getting a regulation, a handbook in which you will get this in more detail. Now to just give a very brief understanding that because this is related to our discourse hereafter for the rest of the next 2 hours, and that is that research is very much a conversation, and when we mean that research is a conversation, it means that as researchers you are going to get onto a journey which is about exploring what is the state of the art, what are the gaps, what are the problems. For example, when some of you may be thinking that I'm going to work on artificial intelligence, but artificial intelligence is not the problem. The problem is something else, and you use probably machine learning or artificial intelligence to address the problem. So understanding the state of the art, what is the conversation going on in a domain, what are the gaps that you have found out, what is it that you have to tell about that? Is there something interesting that you can find out scientifically in order to address the state of the art gap that is there in your field, and then how does that begate impact either in the research community or in society practice and policy. The reason I'm sharing this with you is that when you translate this into the three key things that we look forward when you are playing your role here as a doctoral scholar is the coursework, and then the proposal, and then the thesis. So as you see, whatever I say to you right now, they can be broken up into three stages of your work, of crafting your research, your thesis, and then coming up with something novel that can contribute to your domain. So you know the state of the art, you apply certain methods to do that, you go through a coursework in order to understand all this. You find a gap, you find research questions that you want to address, and the kind of research plan that you need to have, which is your proposal. And then you kind of work together with your thesis supervisory committee around the methodology and the scientificity to come up with your findings. Finally, the thesis and the viva. So these are kind of, very broadly speaking, three stages that you will go through. The reason I'm sharing this is now I come to the goals and the objectives. So primarily, when we say goals and objectives, one is, of course, that so as you might be knowing, that BIMTech is also going through a very rigorous process of being recognized by international organizations like AACSB and ICWIS. Well, partly being recognized by these international organizations means that you meet up to global standards. But even if you leave that apart, when you talk about a program and their students in the program, there has to be certain learning goals and objectives. Now, when you translate all that I said in the previous slide to goals and objectives, our program has got 4 specific goals and the intended learning objectives according to that. For example, the first one is to equip the students with skills of effective learning. So the objective is that the students will be able to show ability to find out learning resources specific to their area of study. Well, it may seem very obvious, it may seem easy, but that's not so. So that's basically how you look for the literature and how you look for a gap in that literature. It's a learning process. It probably takes you a year and a half to figure that out. So exactly. So that's something that we are kind of going to assess it at your thesis proposal stage. And then, of course, we have the second goal, which is equipping students with the skills to design doctoral research. So this is the stage where we try to see that you are able to formulate research objectives and question. As a student, you are able to decide methodology, tools, and techniques for research. So again, we are going to evaluate this at your thesis proposal stage. And then the third goal is to equip you with the skills to conduct doctoral research. So that entails your ability, developing your ability to analyze and evaluate findings, ability to summarize and document and report your research, and your ability to present and defend what you have found through your research. So this is something which we then evaluate at your thesis stage, right? When you are submitting a thesis, you submitted your thesis and it goes under an evaluation process. And finally, the fourth goal is to equip the students with the ability to reproduce publishable research output by way of research paper and cases. So in BIMTech, we have this requirement that in order to successfully complete your doctorate, you need to have at least 2 Scopus indexed publications. It means that the work that you are doing is being acknowledged in academic community. So you see, these are the broad goals and objectives with which we'll be working in the next few years. However, this is not just it. There are many layers. There are multiple layers even deeper into this, which you will get to realize when you see the rubrics on the basis of which you get evaluated in these 3 stages. You will get those, in the student handbook, which you will receive from the center for your fellow program. So with this, I think, with the kind of process that we have and with the kind of commitment that we have with such an excellent faculty base and the rigorous coursework, we have been able to create a presence and a confidence on the quality that we have. And I can reassure you that we're definitely you're welcomed to a very successful program. In fact, one of the top professors in India who had taken about 2 to 3 workshops in BIMTech on content analysis, he said something very interesting. He said that many scholars at BIMTech are very serious about research, and that's a commitment that we are proud about. So our scholars have already started publishing in leading journals. In fact, this year also, quite a few of our scholars are doing very well in terms of publishing. It's very energizing to see the enthusiasm, commitment, and energy that our scholars slowly and gradually gather in order to do their work. So this comes from Dr. Jagannathan, who is one of the top professors in management science in India today. And when you also talk to an alumni, I haven't yet shared with the new batch, but then next weekend we are planning an interaction where the alumni of the fellow program will have a talk, have a conversation with the new batch after the classes are over in the weekend. So it is going to be a very interesting, a very a kind of a semi-formal and open discussion where the alumni will share what is it that you can gain from this next few years, and what is it that they can share in terms of helping you to go through this challenging path. So as you can see, Dr. Vinu Sharma, who has been our alumni now, right now she's an assistant professor at BIMTech, but she believes that the coursework had a great contribution in what she did. The coursework is well designed to equip the students with contemporary research techniques. Dr. Abhijit Lele, who is an assistant professor in St. Bass's today, he is immensely touched by the nature of his supervisor. By that he means the kind of support and the kind of knowledge capital that he got in touch with and he was blessed with because of his interaction with his supervisor. That's something that inspired him. So I think in BIMTech you have a really good combination of all these attributes, and it's a start of a very good journey. And this journey is a new one. It is different from your journey so far. It has its own challenges, own nuances, own rewards, and it starts with a single step. And all the new fellows that are here today, you have taken that single step. It's a very major step. And I think here I can tell you that a doctorate is, it depends really on you, but a doctorate can become a transformative experience. It can be a life-changing experience. It can really make you confident and knowledgeable and help you become more humble, I would say, and also look at yourself as someone who can contribute to knowledge creation in this world. So you are on the very right journey. Thank you so much for choosing it, choosing this opportunity. So therefore, with this, I welcome all the new fellows to the beginning of a very exciting journey ahead at BIMTech. So with this, I stop sharing my screen and over to you, Gayatri.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you for providing us with the insights about the program. We are indeed fortunate to be part of a very meticulous design, and the rigor and relevance both will surely take us on a journey which is very much different from any conventional course that we have done so far. As we welcome our FPM and EFPM scholars of the batch of the year 2020, I take this opportunity to request them for a brief introduction. Maybe start with Mr. Amit Gupta.
I'd like to
Yes.
chip in for now.
Yeah.
We have to keep an eye on the clock because
Yes.
of the technique, which is at my end. The start got a bit delayed, so we
Yes.
are actually running 15 minutes late. So
Okay.
So what I suggest is that I will totally, I will reduce the time for all the next few steps.
Yeah.
I request all the scholars to be very brief. My
Yeah.
own address, instead of 10 minutes, I'll finish it off in 5 minutes. And I request the Dean, Dr. Sahai, also to do the same. So our addresses would save at least 10 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Shukla sir. So, may I request you to kindly just give a brief details about your educational background and
Hi, Shubhanshu.
yeah. Monica ma'am, may I please request you to mute yourself? Thank you so much, ma'am. Yeah. So, may we start with Mr. Amit Gupta?
Hi, hi everybody. Hi, Datri, can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yeah, I can. Loud and audible, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay, I'm probably the oldest scholar here, and scholar, but that's okay. So I did my graduate work from Thunderbird School of Graduate School of Management, and then for around 15 years I have worked in industry, outside, inside, as a freelancer, and primarily in consulting and also in equity research. So it is my interest in both equity research and history that brings me to look at strategy as a very relevant field of research.
Thank you, sir. Glad to have you with us.
Thank you so much.
So may I request Mr. Arnab Kumar Das?
Yeah, hi, Dariti. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone.
Sir, can you be a little louder, sir?
Hi. Yeah, Dariti, can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's loud.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I am Arnab. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. I am, by graduation, I am an engineer, and currently I am the Assistant Vice President HR in Canada HSBC OBC Life Insurance. It's great to be back here because I'm an alumni of BIMTech. I did my PGDBM from BIMTech. I'm a pass out of 2005 batch. Thank you very much.
Glad to have an alumnus back with us, sir. May I request Mr. Bhanu Prakash Varla?
Hello, good evening, everybody. My name is Bhanu Prakash Varla, and my basic education from a Bachelor's of Chemical Technology from Usmania University, and also an alumnus of IIM Bangalore. And I predominantly own the software company in Hyderabad, and also founder of Urban Kisan, which is the hydroponic site. And I'm here to do my research more on the strategy side of the incubation and accelerator programs that I really wanted to learn from the professors and move forward. Thank you so much. I'm loving to see all of you.
Thank you, sir. May I request Ms. Bhavna Thawani for your introduction, please?
Thank you, everyone, for giving us a nice walkthrough over the learning goals. And I am Bhavna, and I started my career with BlackRock, and I worked there for quarter to 6 years in the asset management company. And after that, I moved to HDFC Life. There, I work as a deputy manager, basically into operations team. And currently, I'm working with BPL Infotech as a deputy manager for customer support area. So I'll be handling this piece. This is all about myself.
Thank you so much. May we request Mr. Pankaj Singh Rawat? Sir, are you there?
Gayatri, please ask the participants to put their camera on when they are speaking, when they are introducing themselves.
Thank you, Professor Sahai. May I request all, at least while you're introducing, if you could please put your camera on, because I think post-COVID, this is the only way that we get to interact. So, Mr. Pankaj Singh Rawat. Sir, your voice is not very clear, and if you could please turn the camera on.
Camera is on. So,
yeah.
Am I audible, visible now?
Yeah, you are, sir.
Okay.
Please.
So, good evening, respected faculty members, dear friends. I'm Pankaj Rawat. I'm an engineer from DB University, Pantnagar, and MBA from Antigua. I have worked in tractor industry for in case industry, Hero Honda and Honda. I am working with Maruti Suzuki. I have worked in primarily training. Currently, I am Deputy General Manager, sales in Haryana and Himachal.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Rawat. May we have Mr. Praveen Kumar? Sir,
Good evening to all of you.
Good evening.
I am Praveen Kumar. By profession, I am engineer. I have done my graduation from Institute of Engineers, India. And after that, I did my post-graduation MTech from Jawaharlal Nehru Technological University, Hyderabad, and my MBA from MIT University, Noida. And I'm having more than 20 years of experience. It includes industrial experience, defense experience, and now presently I am working in Government of India, and my area of interest and research will revolve around TVET system of India, that is vocational education and training, that system of India. Thank you.
Welcome, Praveen sir. May we have Mr. Prakhar, please?
Hello, good evening, everyone. This is Prakhar. I have done my engineering from GLA Institute, Mathura, and after that, I have completed my MBA from Triple IT, Gwalior. Since then, I'm working as a manager with Canara Bank, and currently I'm branch manager in Bulandshahr. And I look forward with joining BIMTech as an research fellow, and will start this journey to do further research and to become a good academic career forward. Thank you.
We look forward to have you at our campus, sir. May I request Mr. Sriram Iyer to kindly introduce yourself?
Hi all, good evening. My name is Sriram Iyer. I'm a CEO of a company called Qubit AI, which is valued over $3 million. I'm into the space of AI, artificial intelligence, with this company. I started my career from engineering and strategy. Apart from Africa, there is no continent that I have not worked. And very happy to say I'm student of Jagdish Seth, professor who's going to come in. Looking forward for a great session and being a student of BIMTech. Thank you.
That's great, sir. May I request Mrs. Suyash?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I am Suyash. I'm working with DXC Technologies, which is a leading IT company of the world, and I'm working as a project manager there. And I also have experience, diversified experience in HR. I did my graduation in economics and then post-graduation in human resource management. Looking forward to be the part of this STEAM institution. Thank you.
Welcome, Suyash. May I request Mr. Vikas Gupta for your introduction, please?
Sure. Thanks. Hello, everyone. I'm Vikas Gupta. And about my educational background, I am an engineer from Delhi College of Engineering, and I have done MBA from IMT Ghaziabad. I have overall total 25 years of experience, mostly in banking, financial services, insurance. Currently, I'm working in RBS India, recently rechristened as NatWest Group. I'm working there as a vice president, and pretty much over my 25 years of experience, it has been into technology, and most recently, for last about 1 year, it is into executive coaching, agile coaching, so on and so forth. What I'm looking forward to is that EFPM program as a part of my journey, so that I am able to contribute, back to the academics and give back my, kind of experience and the skills that I have learned over the past about 2.5 decades, and that's what is what I'm looking forward to. Thank you so much, everyone, and I'm quite, feeling so happy to be part of this family. Thank you so much.
That's a wonderful thought, sir. And we welcome these were our executive fellow members. And now may I ask the fellow program scholars, Mr. Abhay Agarwal. Are you there, sir? Abhay? So I think...
Abhay, your voice is not coming, actually.
Yeah.
Maybe you can just check your audio settings.
Yeah. So meanwhile,
Yeah,
can
meanwhile, someone
we,
else. Yeah.
yeah, can we hear from Mr. Akhil Kumar? Akhil, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Very good evening to everyone. And I did my engineering from Gautam Buddha University, and my specialization in masters was intelligent system. So I'm very glad, and thank you for such a warm welcome.
Most welcome, Akhil. May we hear from you, Miss Maya Pandey?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Good
yes,
evening,
ma'am.
all
Loud
of
and
you.
clear.
Yeah. Good evening, all of you. Just to give you a brief background, I am a political science honors graduate from Delhi Shri Ram College, Delhi University, post graduation in international relations from JNU. I also did my MPhil from JNU. I wanted to pursue research, but I'm back here doing research, and I really look forward to this long journey ahead. I may be the youngest with 30 years of experience in insurance industry in India, overseas, and everywhere. And I was responsible for bringing trade credit insurance in the Indian market. So I look forward to this journey. Thank you.
We're just fortunate to have you with us, ma'am. May we
Thank you.
request Miss Nivedita Jha? Nivedita, are you there?
Yes. Good evening to all of you. I'm Nivedita. I have done MBA in HR and Marketing from Mr. Ram Institute of Management and Technology, Greater Noida. And after that, I have almost 4 years of experience in HR field. And now I am here to pursue my research in BIMTech. This is all about me. Thank you.
Welcome, Nivedita. And last but not least, we have Miss Suman with us. Suman, would you please help us with your introduction? Suman, are you there? You need to unmute yourself. Yes. You can just place the space bar once. Just try pressing it and you can unmute yourself. Yeah. So Suman, you're not audible.
In the meantime, can we have Abhay Agarwal?
Yeah, can we hear from you, Abhay, please? Abhay, I'm sorry, but you're not yet audible to us.
Yes. So both Abhay and Suman, they are trying to reach out to us, but unfortunately, the audio is not working. So maybe Abhay and Suman, you can introduce yourself in the chat. You can write about yourself in the chat, and everybody will get an opportunity to know you. Thank you.
Great.
We can move on.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. So the diversity and the richness of experience and their different backgrounds, that's a wonderful and invaluable enrichment that these scholars bring to BIMTech's research orientation. We thank you and we wish you all a great journey ahead, and we hope that you have impactful research in your careers ahead. So to steer us towards our research endeavors, we are grateful to have Dr. Arunaditya Sahai, the Dean Research at BIMTech, a professor in strategy, innovation, and entrepreneurship area. Dr. Sahai's vast experience, as Dr. Sengupta explained, on a plethora of sectors, it has been an inspiration for every budding researcher in BIMTech and also in the entire Delhi NCR region. As we commence the doctoral program, may I request our Dean Research, Professor Sahai, to address us, please.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gayatri.
Professor Sahai, just 1 second. One of our faculty, Professor Monica Mittal, was raising her hand. Professor Mittal, is there something you want to say?
No.
Okay, thank you. Professor Sahai, please.
Okay, so distinguished faculty colleagues and dear FPM and EFPM, now again back students. I hope you take this word seriously, students again, right? So welcome to this prestigious institute, Birla Institute of Management Technology. I mean, before I talk to you anything, this day I get reminded of my childhood when I read the poem of Wordsworth, when I see a rainbow, when I behold a rainbow, my heart leaps up. Any of you recollect this poem? Wordsworth, William Wordsworth, when I behold a rainbow, my heart leaps up. And likewise, whenever I see some research scholars, some FPM, EFPM students, my heart really leaps up. And it's a real rainbow with so many colors, so many shades, so many disciplines, with so many different things that you want to do. We are really delighted to have you. Now, talking to research, Subhanjan told you that it's a journey, and I entirely agree with him. It's a journey. It's a never-ending journey. You never reach a destination. Thesis, submitting a thesis, getting a PhD is just a milestone. And in my large career, I mean, first I got introduced to research at a very young stage when I was put into R&D section. And from there, I was picked up for doing my PhD abroad. But those days, research used to be in the organizations in a corner. Research guys would go on doing something which nobody bothered. But by the time I came up and I became CEO of a company, I saw that research had become multifarious. It became business of everybody. In research department, there were marketing guys, there were HR guys, and in fact, at times the research department was led by an arts guy who was an MBA. So research has got, totally different, many dimensions. This I am talking of industry. When I came to, from industry also, I was always interacting with IITs, IIMs, and their research scholars, and I have been as an external member in many theses of IIT research scholars or IIM research scholars. But when I came to academics, I found a totally new dimensions. And what I found here, and this message is especially to EFPM people, they come with very much, so many deep engravings on their mind's rock. And for us, it becomes very difficult to convert it into a clean slate because they have got very firm beliefs, opinions. It's very difficult to really raise. So for them, the first thing is to unlearn. Even we require unlearning, not that I'm telling you only. Unlearning is a big part of doing research. And in this regard, I want to really quote Einstein, who always used to say, it's not that I am very smart, it's only that I work harder. That's how I am into it. And at one time, he went on to say that if you knew what you are doing, will it be a research? He used to question himself. That if you knew what you were doing, will it be a research? That was a question to him, a lifelong question. Many a times we think that we have come with absolutely concrete idea, we know, and this is what I want to do. As you will find yourself when you go in the course and then other work, seminar, that your idea goes on changing. What you came with, what proposal you gave at the time of your admission, from there you might have already come to something else by now. By the time you will do your course, you will find so many new things to do, and it becomes very, very difficult to choose one from them. But may I tell you that it's a marriage again type of thing, that you are marrying again for next 4 or 5 years. It will be your second wife or second husband, and it's going to be a very difficult time, especially for those who are married people. It's going to
Dr.
be
Sahai,
very time consuming, and you have to be really very committed to it.
Dr. Sai, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Please keep an eye on the clock as well.
I will just take 2 more minutes, maybe.
Thank you
I
so
have
much, sir.
curtailed. I am
Thank you
not
so
going to tell many things.
Thank
And
you so much.
some of the researchers, in fact, when I talked to them, and it was especially one from Czech Republic who used to say, "Oh, it's a muta marriage. I got muta marriage for next 5 years." So these are different shades, these are different experiences, but I would always say that we think a lot about research as an analysis. Yes, research is both analysis and synthesis. Analysis is the scientific part of the research, but synthesis is the philosophical part of research. And philosophy, earlier, there was no art, science, or commerce, or life sciences. Everything was philosophy. Anybody knowledgeable used to be called philosopher. And philosophy means your knowledge. Research, one of the things that research does is to create knowledge. So what you will be doing and what you need really to learn both and get both analytical analysis as well as synthetical skill. Synthesis is equally important. In the beginning, you will find that you are doing so many studies, you are analyzing, you are opening up. But at the end of the day, when you start really completing your thesis, you have to synthesize everything and really make a nice garland, putting every pearl into a string. So synthesis is a very important part of research. Now, each of you will have your own journey. The course part of it may be a common journey, but beyond that, everybody will have separate journey. But let me tell you, in this journey, more than what we shall teach you or what we shall have discourse with you, I won't call it teaching, it will be more of a discourse. You will learn more by discoursing with each other. Your peer learning in this particular journey will be much more, and therefore I will encourage you all to be always in contact with each other of your batch as well as your seniors, as well as other research scholars in other institute or anywhere in the world. Get connected with them who are interested in your own discipline. I had to say a lot, but since we are getting 15 minutes behind time, I will end up with these little words, welcoming you once again. A very, very welcome to all of you. A very fruitful stay with us and a very fruitful research, learning and research output. Thank you all. Wish you all the best.
Thank you very much, sir. Professor Shukla, Jagdish Shet sir is in the waiting room. Shall I admit him in?
Yeah, I think you can admit him in, because it is not proper to keep him in the waiting room. Can Mr. Shivendra please ring up the director, or may I request the Dean Research to please ring up the director, because I wanted the director to be present when Dr. Shet comes in. But however,
I'll do that, sir. I'll do that.
Shivendra sir, please meet with me.
I'll now admit Professor Shet in the meeting room.
Yes.
A very warm welcome, Professor Jagdish Shet.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Arvind. How are you?
Good morning to you. Good morning.
We are all great. Thank you so much, sir, for finding out time for us.
Sure. Yes.
We have exactly clocked in as per our schedule, which was shared with you. Within a second or two, Dr. Chaturvedi is also joining us. In the meantime, I take this opportunity of introducing you to the new incoming scholars. Although a person of your repute and stature does not require an introduction, but some formalities need to be completed, and therefore I address my new incoming scholars by introducing Dr. Jagdish Seth. Padma Bhushan Dr. Seth is the Charles Kelstad Professor of Business at the Goetzeta Business School, Emory University. He's globally known for his scholarly contributions in consumer behavior, relationship marketing, competitive strategy, and geopolitical analysis. Professor Seth has over 50 years of combined experience in teaching and research at the universities of Southern California, the University of Illinois, Columbia University, MIT, and now the Emory University. Dr. Seth has authored and co-authored more than 300 research papers, and we at BIMTech are very fortunate to have always got Dr. Seth's blessings and support for whatever little efforts and endeavors we undertake. I once again take this opportunity to welcome Dr. Seth on behalf of BIMTech, on behalf of the Center for Research, and on my own personal behalf. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome to this meeting.
Yeah, I have a question for you, Professor Shukla.
Yeah.
Who is that young man with mustache and glasses? The name sounds like he's a new student, Rahul Singh.
So good morning. Yes, I'm Rahul. I didn't want to disturb the flow. Very good morning, sir.
Rahul is a dear friend, so I wanted to acknowledge him being there. So good to see you, Rahul.
Same here, sir. My pleasure. I'm privileged.
Yes. Dr. Shumanjan, is Dr. Chaturvedi in the meeting?
Sir, not yet. I have called him twice. He's on a call actually. I'll ring him back again.
Okay. So so whenever he joins, we will welcome him. And in the meantime, I think we have to slightly circumvent our next step, and we can straight away go into listening to the address of Dr. Seth, for which all of us have been waiting so eagerly.
Right. Okay. So it's my turn. Shall I start? I need to do one thing. Hold on. You will watch me. Can you hear me better?
Yes, sir. We can hear you, sir.
Share the screen.
I forgot to put the ear part down.
Professor Chaturvedi is now joining
By putting
us.
this on. Okay.
Professor Dr. Harivansh Chaturvedi has joined our meeting room. Welcome, sir. Professor
Welcome, sir.
Seth is already
Good evening.
here.
Good evening to Professor Seth. Sir.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm fine, sir. I think I should say good morning to you. Good morning to you.
That's
good morning.
It is. Good morning. You're right. Correct.
May I request Dr. Chaturvedi to welcome Dr. Seth formally, as well as welcome the new incoming batch.
Good.
Dr. Chaturvedi.
So it's a great privilege for me to welcome our mentor, our guide, our well-wisher, and a big support to BIMTech, Professor Jagdish Seth, in this way, because we have been so far meeting him or inviting him in conferences where this was not the format. Our association with Professor Jagdish Seth is very old. Dr. Rahul Singh knows very well. First time we have met him in 2007. So it is around 13 years old association, although we were known for a long time about his great contribution in the field of marketing. After Philip Kotler, we count him a legend in marketing. I will show you that what kind of great work he has done. From very humble background, born at Burma, shifted to Chennai, got his initial higher education at Chennai itself, migrated to USA without money, and he survived. And his biography narrates all these stories, and we are all grateful to him for accepting today's invitation. Professor Shukla is very close to him, and he has accepted and obliged us to agree to address our new batch of fellow program and executive fellow program. Dr. Verma, Dr. Sahai, Dr. Shukla, Dr. Rahul Singh, other colleagues are present, and I would like to just show the work he has done. And I keep in my residential library, you can see he has edited 9 volumes of the legend of marketing, Philip Kotler. Philip Kotler's all the writings have been collected, edited by him. It has been published by Sage Publications. And similarly, Sage has published 9 or 10 volumes of his writings, edited by, I am forgetting the name, most likely by Professor Atul Parvatia. I may be wrong, he may correct it. Then a very wonderful collection, Handbook of Advances in Marketing in an Era of Disruptions, Essays in Honor of Jagdish and Seth, forward by Philip Kotler, edited by Atul Parvatiyar, Rajendra Sisodia. So these are the 2 disciples of Professor Seth, and he has hundreds of disciples like Dan. I also claim one of his disciples, and this is the book available in your library, and even I can lend you a personal copy. You can photocopy some of the research papers compiled here. So this is the great work done by him. I welcome him on behalf of BIMTech faculty fraternity, and the research scholars who are joining today. Thank you, Dr. Seth. Forever we shall remain grateful to you, and you are doing great work. We are always inspired by you. Thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Chaturvedi. It's an honor to be here. We all admire your extraordinary leadership of this institution. The kinds of things BIMTech does, which is not really publicized, but there are breakthroughs in many ways, especially in the societal arena. The kinds of things that you support the NGO, public policy on the one hand, doing work in Africa or African students, global presence in terms of what you do. So I become a major admirer of not only BIMTech, but also you. Absolutely true. It's good to see what I would call a truly servant leader.
Thank you,
I
sir.
also want to thank, oh sure, and I mean it, of course. It's always a joy to be with you. And also I very much want to thank Professor Shukla, Arvind Shukla, who I came to know very well last year when you hosted the Doctoral Consortium, and a year before we started working together along with my colleague Jan Shah. So that has been a great journey, and now come to know Professor Shukla and what he does. And there are other faculty members who are there that also I know them well and work with them sometimes. So here is my formal greetings. So first of all, greetings and welcome to what I call the lifelong journey of learning. By joining the fellow program, you have decided, either intentionally or unintentionally, that you will be a student forever. Remember, the best way to learn is teach and do research. So unless you have the passion to learn, you will have a burnout in this job. All occupations, ranging from sanitation to science, are noble. They serve the society. But the occupation you have chosen to embark on, which is the academic journey, is even more noble. For only one and one reason: your job, as it is my job right now, or our job as professors, is to unlock the potential of others. Your potential you may not recognize, but your advisors, your guide, the professors will be unlocking your potential, watching you. Doctoral education or a fellow education is a more one-on-one education, not like the PGPD, etc., or the MBA program as we call it. So it is more noble than others, because ultimately what we have to do is to unlock the potential of others. It is also a more satisfying job, because as you unlock the potential of others, they are so grateful to you. They serve the society in so many unique ways beyond they can imagine or you could imagine. And then they remember you. We all remember our best teachers in high school or colleges. They made something, they said something in their class without even knowing it, which impacted us so positively. And it is really the reason I do these sessions, because to me, it is very important, because my own journey is similarly. I'm an accidental scholar. I was born to a merchant community, a typical shopwala. My father went to Burma in 1916, roughly. His two brothers went, and his cousin brother, four families. And then before World War II, Japanese took over Burma on the way to India, and we became refugees. We refused to leave in the short run because there's nothing back that we could do in India at that time. But we were forced to go. And we went back to the place where I grew up, which is Kutch in Gujarat, a district called Kutch, near Mundra, which has now become a big port and also power plants, etc., but was such a small village essentially. And it was very famous for there were more flies than people. It had more flies, I don't know why. That's my memory. And I would be a panwala, a typical shopkeeper, 400-500 feet square foot. And I would be earning about 5,000, 6,000 rupees a month. I'll be happy, but I would not know my own potential. Every human being has that capability. All it needs is somebody to mentor them, somebody to identify them. This is the art in sports they know, the scout who identifies the talent, the coach and the trainer gets you going in gymnastics, in swimming, all the Olympic sports, you will see that thing. I think we can do the same in the academic world. And I think that's the excitement, contributing back to the society, in addition to becoming our own selves good scholars. So I would like to talk about what will happen after you graduate. Remember, there will be lots of ups and downs, and at the end I'll tell you do's and the don'ts of being a doctoral student. But ultimately, you will be having a tripod of responsibilities, not just one. As an academic educator, we are more than scientists who just have to do discovery and nothing else. As academics, we are more than preachers and gurus, because they only talk about disseminating knowledge as told in the historic Granth, or in ancient scriptures, contemporizing, etc. Our job is more than that. As educators, we have three sets of responsibilities, which I will articulate. The first one, of course, is teaching, but teaching does not make you a professor. That's high school, maybe that's 2-year colleges, etc. But teaching itself is a noble profession. And our culture has identified as being the most noble profession is being a teacher, the Brahmin or whatever we call as a word. And they're very interesting about teaching. What makes a great teacher? And I found very interestingly, I was head of a department, a dean of a school, and I found that my students, doctoral students who were teaching, or professors were getting ratings that were really not so good. So I went to College of Education and said, do you have any research about what makes somebody a good teacher, college teacher in this case? And they said, yes, we do have a research, which was surprising to me because more often not, the discipline itself does not put a spotlight on itself, does not have a spotlight as a dark. They talk about everything else. It turned out to be very true. Three things. One thing is all we teach and practice, which is expertise. Are you an expert in the subject matter that you will teach? So expertise is clearly one E, but equally important or more, and actually in the amount of variance explained, expertise comes out to be the lowest, surprisingly. The more, another one is compassion or empathy. Are you a good listener? And often we are not good listeners. We are supposed to influence you, we are supposed to give the guideline, but we are not listening to you. So great teachers are great listeners. And that does not mean the student has to tell you. The body language alone tells you what they want to communicate. So we have to learn non-verbal languages. But the most important component in teaching is passion. If you are enthusiastic, you love what you teach, it rubs on the audience. Whether the audience is 2 or 3 students in a doctoral program, or audience is 1,000 people, or even 10,000 on a Zoom or a web, your enthusiasm, your empathy, and your expertise have to come together. So you'll have to learn how to listen. As you become a doctoral student, learning this thing, because you will be ultimately teaching, is a matter of requirement in some fashion. And as I mentioned, best way to learn is to teach, which I think is very important. I've always taken the responsibility of studying a new course because I want to learn that. Marketing theory. I was passionate. My main department head died suddenly. He was teaching marketing theory class to doctoral students, and suddenly I ended up stepping in. And one summer before the class, I learned quite a lot. I really put my time, but I also began to learn every time I taught, and came out with a book called Marketing Theory, which we also has become very important and classic. Same thing is true about the Howard set theory that we wrote together, the theory of buyer behavior. So your best publications will come from constant teaching out of the material rather than teaching from a textbook, essentially. But what matters is empathy and enthusiasm. So please keep that in the back of your mind. The second area is research. And as I'm reading more carefully the new national education policy advocated by the government and will be implemented by the time you graduate, research will become a requirement. It's not just a nice thing to do because you like it, but it'll be a requirement, just like teaching is a requirement. And research has 2 components. Typically, we debate rigor versus relevance. So if you plot on 2 dimensions, you may have journalism on the one hand, very relevant to the society, daily news, local, global, COVID right now, or tensions between China and America, whatever is happening, very new, very newsworthy, but the process is anecdotal. They interview a few people, and based upon that, the generalization, so people consider journalism as not scientific enough. You will be learning quite a lot of research techniques and methods and philosophies. What is equally important is relevance. So on the research dimension, you can have very esoteric research, scientifically mind-boggling, too many mathematical formulas, but it is not relevant to the society. You see the difference between the 2 sides. Many of the clinical trials in, let's say, healthcare, they go through the whole relevance is very true because you're trying to save lives, but you have to have a scientific approach, what they call A-B process, which is what we are going through with COVID right now, pandemic. While we will manage it and hopefully there will be less casualties, but ultimately you have to have a vaccine, just as we have vaccines for other viruses. And that's very important. And now the debate is the vaccine created by different countries like China, Russia, America, Europe, WHO, is it going to be scientifically done right? Proper disclosure, no deception. So you have to have an integrity of scientists that even if it does not prove my own results, I stand by the results ultimately. It's evidence-based knowledge that you're creating. That you will be taught in your course as you take the journey for 4 years or whatever time period you have. I'm more interested in relevance. If there is any one discipline that can contribute to the societal problems, it is not economics. It may be the STEM programs, science, technology, engineering, and math. But ultimately, management can contribute enormously. We don't have to be profit seekers and do our brilliant work only for corporations and their profitability when we have so many societal problems. And of course, even the companies are realizing, whether you have a CSR mandate or not, that only way they can survive is doing well by doing good. If you see the protest today right now against institutions, governments in this case, the next target is going to be business institutions. People are just fed up. Making money alone should not be the objective in life. When you have so many societal problems out there, especially in emerging economies, but problems are everywhere. So my view is that you must do research on what I would call newsworthy. It is something that the world immediately pays attention, says, what a great management idea that serves the society. It can serve the corporation. Right now, everybody knows the biggest issue in managing the COVID pandemic is a supply chain. And who is an expert in supply chain? Only management people. Actually, it comes from military originally. Operations research was first practiced by the military, and that knowledge became part of the management discipline. You have a technology like blockchain. We are adopting that. Accounting people are adopting that as a requirement of accounting companies. And my view is that blockchain as a technology will be mandatory for you to study whether you like it or not, just like artificial intelligence. They have management or applied relevance, or you can apply to societal problems. The biggest skill set is going to be what you're passionate about. Which societal problem you feel, either as a marketing professor or a student, management professor or a strategy professor or international business or accounting, whatever you are majoring in, how can it solve? So to me, research has to be rigor, but also relevance. And more in the academic career, relevance is becoming much more important in appraisal and evaluations. Keep that comment in the back of your mind. Ideally, if you can do a scientific research on a societally relevant problem, let's say low-income people, for example, let's talk about rural India, and just goes on and on, with rigor and relevance, you will basically, it's just like a Nobel Prize winners. If you look at the last Nobel Prize winners of couple who are two young scientists or economists, the Nobel Prize winning is the old market research that we used to do. Field studies, but they focused on a problem that society says more power to you, which is poverty reduction, as opposed to profit making. So that's the first part. Second area, teaching I talked about. And teaching, there are three, but main thing in teaching that becomes very relevant, equally important, is not what you say, but how you say it. So style matters. You'll have to learn communication skills. We have all of our doctoral students go through a teaching workshop, mandatory. We make sure that not at Emory, but other institutions, doctoral students must teach before they graduate so they get the experience. It's very much like in engineering, you have to build a contraption before you become an engineer. Or in medical school, as a doctor, you have to cut the cadaver, you have to do something with the body, teach, talk to the patients, real work. So that's very important, in my view, in teaching also. Last area is mentoring. Outside of our teaching and research responsibilities, you will be having mentoring sessions with your students after you become a professor. Learn the skill of mentoring now while you are in the doctoral program. All these three things are necessary when you graduate and become a professor, and you can learn while you have the luxury of 2 years or 4 years of studying. Mentoring is probably the best thing you will ever do, which is not generally even counted. We call it community service or public service. And you can do several ways. You can get active, and I would strongly recommend you do active into academic, professional membership organizations, both foreign as well as local. So you have in my discipline, American Marketing Association, Association for Consumer Research, or ISMS, which is a information sciences, marketing sciences, Central Information Society, marketing science. They just had their virtual get together. It was supposed to be hosted by University of Southern California. Jerry Tellis was the leader of that program, but he could not do it. But they actually virtually hosted, and more than 700 people showed up. All mathematical work, what we call marketing analytics. That is true in supply chain, or in information sciences, or in finance, or in accounting. So what I'm pointing I'm making is that getting active with associations will be very important, because this discipline, like any discipline, networking is important. You have to show up and participate in activities, provide leadership skills, which is one extreme. The other one is one-on-one mentoring to other doctoral students when you graduate, or peer mentoring with each other, which is very common. So mentoring is a very important skill set you need to learn pretty much as you're on your way to becoming an academic. So I think it's a great noble profession. I would not do anything else, even though I discovered accidentally. So rather than stay in Kutch Mundra, manage a family shop, not even a high school education, I got some very good breaks in my life. Dislocations in life build not only a character, but gives you opportunities. As in the COVID lock-in, we have become very much, as you know, improvisation, innovative, creative, how to manage the space with so many people together in a small flat. We're learning how to do. It's called Jugaad in India at one time. Can you do more with less, for example? Can you remove the obstacles or jump over the obstacles? So this is a great journey, and you should. I'm glad that you are in that profession. Last set of comments, and then I will stop and have questions and answers. What are the do's and don'ts? It's a tough journey. It's not easy. There are times when you will feel like I want to give up. Why I want to go through this? Many doctoral students, at least in America, the pressure is so high on them that what was enthusiasm and their passion, they get a burnout. So we get clinical depression quite a lot. 50% of our doctoral students go through clinical depression, and some of them never come out. So please choose a topic for research that you are passionate about, and make sure that your professors and the institution nurtures you on that idea. Unless you are passionate, as I mentioned, you will have a burnout. So passion is very important in a research area that you are very interested in, and you have make sure that your faculty and your colleagues, as well as in fact the institution, enables you to do what you want to do. Second thing, very importantly, would be time management. You will find that you just don't have enough time, no matter what you do. And even after graduation, when you become a professor, starting out, time will get even more complicated. You will have no time, more activities. And so time management will become very key. If there's a workshop on time management, attend those and learn how to optimize your time. I learned it by practically, by asking my senior colleagues when I joined faculty to say, how do you manage all this stuff? There are some role models I had. So I learned quite a lot about time management through compartmentalization, using a technique called FIFO, first in, first out, Never wait for the deadline, which I still can't do it very well, it turns out. And the last one is that don't agonize for perfection. There is no perfect, predictable world in management or anything in life. So you reach a certain level of excellence. In a Six Sigma analog, there is no Six Sigma. You can strive to have a Six Sigma, but a Five Sigma is as good as a Six Sigma. And our discipline is so contextual, you cannot model it anyhow. So making sure that you don't overspend time, the marginal utility of that extra time would be negative actually. You'll get into quagmire of data analytics, for example. This doesn't make sense, that doesn't make sense. There's so many contingencies. So you have to have that principle of first in, first out, compartmentalization, and also satisficing. And if your own standard is high enough, the world standard would be less than your standard. So you have to be driven by your own self very high standard of what's a quality essentially of research, publication, teaching. That's very important. Mark my words, you will go through stress. Unfortunately, the way we are organized now, unlike the old model, there's a too much pressure to get your doctorate out in 4 years, 2 years, or whatever the schedule is. So you'll have a lot of stress management, especially those who have a family at the same time, young children at home. Managing that one is very difficult. So you'll have to learn how to manage stress. And there are actually many antidotes to stress, not just meditation, for example, but there are techniques that people will teach you. So have a workshop on time management and a workshop on stress management, which will be outside of the curriculum that any institution will offer. But today everything is possible on YouTube, or you can do online courses, etc., that you should do. Overall, I'm so glad you have chosen this profession. India needs this badly. If there is one capacity building thing in India, it is not buildings or land. It is not even a content to some extent, because it's available on Google, everything today, but it is the scarcity of faculty. I can generate scientists much faster than I can generate faculty. As I said, obligation is not just to serve the society, but to unlock the potential of others. And it takes time. You are like a rough diamond. I mean, you're like a diamond cutter who will take a rough diamond and polish it, as you will be polished by your guide, mentor, and your institution. And it takes time. But you'll get the brilliance out of people. We all take pride on our doctoral students or our junior colleagues. If they become world class and world famous, we take pride in that. That's my doctoral student. That's the excitement. That's the, even today, I'm 81 years old, almost 82. I still am very passionate because giving back to the society, encouraging others, unlocking their potential is what I feel good about. And that leads me to the last comment. Remember, you are a very elite group of small number of people. If you look at the total of India or the world for that matter, and you're blessed. You're blessed by your family, by mentors. You have been admitted in one of the top institutions. It is not easy to get admission. And therefore, you have an obligation from the day you start your program, your obligation is to give back to the society. You can't think about giving back to the society when you retire as a professor. The obligation and the journey begins the day you commit yourself to becoming an academic educator or a scholar. So giving back is a very important part of the social fiber, sort of the mission-driven thing that you must do while becoming a good educator yourself. I hope this has been enough for my view about higher education and doctoral program, and I'll be happy to take any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Jagdish. That was extremely enlightening. I will now request the new fellows, if you have if you have a question, if you want to talk about something with Professor Shet, you can just raise your hand in the participant window. And so, is there anyone who? Yes, Mr. Vikas Gupta, Professor Shet, Mr. Vikas Gupta would like to ask something. Yes.
Sure.
Hello, Professor Jagdish. Thanks for such an enriching, your talk today. And today, although it is our first day, but the kind of tips you have shared, I think it seems that we just continue to listen to these great tips. So thank you so much once again for sharing this. So my question is related to the use of technology, because whether we like it or not, COVID has thrown us 5 years ahead in terms of whether how we do business, how we run organizations, and things like that. I am working as a part of NetWest Group, or in a bank, and every day, day in and day out, we have discussed that how like in 2025 in the normal course things would have gone, which has been thrown to us now. So we are talking about digitizing things and da all of that. So my question to you is, how do you see the use of technology or digitization in education or in academics? And is it a pro? That whether, and I'm sure it will be quite useful for the faculty and scholars.
Yeah.
So how we leverage it? Thank you.
Yeah. Very good. Technology or online peripheral teaching brick and mortar was main, then we supplemented by videos and bringing speakers, etc. Today the online will become more and more core and in become peripheral. Just the change was that it's going to take time. A lot of debates because we are going through some. The biggest change has been about elements that came together. One, for the first time, we digitized library. So today, library comes to the laptop, and the amount of content that I can get through Google search is mind-boggling. I can now have textbooks online, for example. I don't have to buy physical products. So physical is being replaced by digital from a content creation, content access, and content. So basically all journals are digitized now. And I can go back to the journals way back when they began, if they've digitized the content, and read about old things written 70, 80 years ago in chemistry, physics. Some of the old ideas are revitalized back again now. I think that's one key thing. Second element in digital technology we have to watch is that it is no longer the what you call the literacy, alphanumerical. The word is video. Video used to be supplemental. Today, video is the main thing. Today, publishers are saying, can you write video chapters? Who said chapters of a textbook or a book can be written only in alphabetical order, or the tables, etc. So that's a key change. It's like a YouTube generation has come in. People like to watch videos first, and then we have a supplemental material in print, for example. That's the second change. There are certain courses that will do very well. And I'll tell you, I'm sorry to take a little longer time, but this may be interesting. I have a whole presentation called Going Away from the 3 R's of Learning, Reading, Writing, and Arithmetic, that was designed for illiterate people in the agricultural society to become literate to work in the factories. It's about 150, 200 years old. Before that one, education was only meant for the elite, the nobles, the children, to make them more human. Humanity is dominated. So they went to Nalanda University in India, or ancient ones, or they went to Aristotle or Plato. They're their own academies. You sent your young person out, usually boys, so that they get a orientation about what human life is all about, meaning. So they are, because they're so, as owners of people, bonded labor, They're everything. They're judge, jury, and execution. Absolute power. You need to moderate that power, right? Then industrial age, we wanted factory workers, so we took the masses and educated. In the knowledge age, it is really what I call 3 I's of learning. You will be all learning that way, or you'll be teaching that way. Learning has to be interactive. When I studied in India, learning was strictly note taking. The professor came, he wrote down whatever it was. There were no textbooks, he simply copied, as opposed to interactive. Peer to peer interaction, but also interaction with the professor or everybody. Learning has to be integrated. And the new education policy is clearly mandating almost. There is something in common, music and mathematics. Generally, we think music is creative, mathematics is analytical, that thou shall not miss. Absolutely bunk. I don't know who came out with that idea. Both are languages. If you do the meta-analysis, both have a structured language, they have syntax, they have semantics, and they have pragmatics, 3 elements of any kind of a language. And one can easily say what is common between math and music. So you can make a top mathematician who is equally good musician, equally good musician, mathematician. So integration is the second area. And the last area that it has to be individualized. This technology allows one-on-one education, personalization in a large context. I may have 100 students, 150 students, 1,000 students, and I can personalize because the education can be synchronous or can be asynchronous. Assignments are given based upon the progress. And students will not be all equal by definition. They will have a variance when they come in the class. And of course, you have to manage the diversity in many ways. So technology is absolutely essential. And my view is that I think we'll all have to learn how to use artificial intelligence in our teaching, for example, how to use blind teaching, for example, and how to use virtual reality. My colleagues are doing quite a lot of interesting work. They're becoming like a child in a candy store. They love these gadgets. I'm still backward in that regard. If I can just do online, I'm happy.
Sure, sir. I think very insightful. Thank you so much, Professor Jagdish, for sharing your insights. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta. Now I'll request Mr. Sriram Iyer to please.
Mr. Iyer, please be very brief with the question. Straight away to the question, Mr. Iyer.
Yeah.
Hi, sir. So this is Sriram. I was your student in 2009, Mumbai Business School. That time we discussed a session on Chindia rising. I just wanted to know what do you think of the opinion now? I don't see Chindia rising anymore.
Good point. And I know you, Sridhar. You are right. We are on LinkedIn also connected. So welcome. Yes, I came to know that you are joining the program. I think you sent me. That's good. Chindia rising is still part of a original idea of a triad power. The old triad power was America, North America, Western Europe, 12 countries before the EU became, and Japan is a late entrant. They control the whole economy, and economy drives geopolitics. That's the logic. The new triad power now is US will continue, but it will be China and India. And this is based upon the demand of the consumption market. These are the 3 largest consumer markets. In fact, my data just shows that based upon IMF, that China's economy on purchasing power parity has already crossed about $29 trillion. American economy is about 23 trillion. India is now 11 trillion. There's a huge drop. Japan is the next one, like 5 trillion. So they don't have a population size as the 3 nations have. US population is half or maybe 1/3 of the India or China population, but it makes up in terms of buying power, quite a lot. We have quite a lot of buying power in services, for example, maid service, chauffeur, etc. So it's becoming very important, and people are looking at purchasing power parity-based GDP calculation because it seems to be more relevant in today's economy. In the triad power, the question is that if China and America are distancing from each other, and China is becoming the superpower, America would like to slow down, just like any challenger would do, essentially, in many ways. What is the role of India? And it seems like it's very clear, given the new Chinese policy, which looks more like Japan's expansion militarily, try to conquer India, for example. If that policy continues, India will have no choice but to distance from China. It's a great opportunity for India because the rest of the world would like not to depend so much on China for sourcing their products. Not just Chinese products, but people send materials in China to make products. So you have to have an alternative. So you can see world divesting from China and investing in other parts, whether it's Vietnam on the one hand, or some of the southeastern country, or India. And India, of course, the place where we have the great competitive advantage is technical talent. We have brilliant scientists, we have brilliant IT software people. Rather than have them go abroad and do the work, let the work come there now. With geopolitics, populism, everything, it seems like that shift is happening. So you saw the announcement, Google investing $10 billion. Facebook will invest. IBM is in negotiations right now. And you can talk all the top companies pretty much in the Silicon Valley coming here because that's the talent we have more than anybody else. And people trust India still. And in terms of proprietary, knowledge essentially. Ours is not at the low end of manufacturing, but the high end of science and engineering. We are one of the best R&D places to do research. You need a bunch of scientists to work together. And we have produced enormous number of talented people. Hyderabad is becoming now the capital, almost replacing Bangalore. All the accounting firms are in Hyderabad now. Ernst & Young is a big one, 50,000 employees right there in one location. And it's massive. They serve Ernst & Young clients all over the world for audit, tax services, or mergers and acquisition advisory services. So you will see consultancy companies, R&D departments. You will see high-level engineering, like military-based, almost to grade, the security area will all come to India, it looks like now. And the alignment now is open. So India and China are becoming more, and India and America are becoming more and more partners, strategic partners. And in the process, America will steer more investment in India as opposed to China. So it's very clear in writing. So the original India notion that China and India should get together, I think it's not going to happen. You're right. Although it was an ideal model, it's not going to happen.
Thank you, sir. It's really awesome to hear you again and very delighted to see you today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ayer. Professor Arvind Shukla, you are raising your hand. You have a question, I suppose.
Yeah, I have a question which is actually not related to the topic of the day, but I feel I cannot stop myself from asking this question. Sir, apart from you, we are about 46, 47 people here in this meeting today, and our combined reputation and stature is a fraction of your reputation and stature. Sir, can you give us some tips of how to be as humble as you are? Some lessons in humility, sir.
Humility either comes naturally, early socialization by the family, making sure that the more successful you are, the more humble you should be, because one of the most self-destructive habits that we create over time with success is to become arrogant.
Yes.
I have a book written called The 7 Bad Habits of Good Companies, one of my better books. It's in 14 languages already. And I have a whole chapter on how with success we all become arrogant. And after doing research there, I became more humble. I realized, the same 7 traits are possible in personal life, One is denial of new reality, as second one is arrogance. Third one is, arrogance is like ego. And third one is complacency on the other hand. It's a great lifestyle Why do I have to do more work, kind of a notion. So given that, I think humility is an absolute essential ingredient as you become more and more respected, admired by the society. And we see that problem among many of the startup CEOs, founders. They become very arrogant with success. People exaggerate more than what they are. They don't see the flaws in the individual. I think we have to say that we are just like any ordinary human being. We were made by circumstances, by mentors, and therefore you cannot take all the credit for yourself. If you wanted to, you can say destiny, that's okay. But destiny also means you have to be human. You have to be in a more humility. And that was, in fact, we had a great ceremony to celebrate our Congressman, John Lewis. John Lewis, who passed away. He was a freedom fighter. And everybody said, give me one word about John Lewis. I was in a webinar with one of the people, and he said he knew him very well. He said, the word I can describe John Lewis was humble. He was humble, humility. Humility will make people admire you more. You are more approachable if you are humble, It's a very important trait, especially in our academic field. Because we are often treated by parents as a teacher, we are like next to God. We are definitely above. So we have that power, soft power. And the more you have that soft power, the more humble you should become so people can approach you in a positive way and you make a difference, you make an impact.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. I see that our director, sir, Professor Chaturvedi, is also raising his hand to ask a question to Professor Sheth. Please, sir. Please, Chaturvedi, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, in the academic world, particularly in management education, I find only yourself, Peter Drucker, and Philip Kotler, only three names, who have contributed more than 50-60 years, and volume of work with high quality, they have become the doyen. So you are one of them. So I would like to know what is the secret of consistently producing high quality research work and managing the health even at this age.
Yeah. I think it just comes ultimately from obsession to learn. And among all of us is the same thing. I know Phil Cutler very well. I knew Peter Drucker, but I read his work. We are all curious about learning. And we believe in the saying that when the student is ready, the teacher will show up. And once you have an egalitarian attitude about learning, which says, I can learn from my grandchildren, I can learn from my peers, I can learn from mountains, I can learn from trees. All of a sudden, your mind becomes very active and sees in the same tree something more than the tree. You don't have to go to just Bhagavad Gita, for example, where it's codified in some fashion, that knowledge. But there's a lot of knowledge out there in nature which can teach you if you are observant. So a keen sense of observation. And in my case, I have learned over the years, and I take pride, I usually like to synthesize very well, organize it, and suddenly you see something. So I'm very eclectic. Ultimately, a good thought leader is always what I call a deep generalist. You are expert in a field because you have a doctorate, which makes you specialized, but you are so curious, you have an interest on everything else, which allows you to connect the dots. So something in psychology, something in economics, something in chemistry, you never thought about connecting the dots in real life. And to me, that's the best thing you can do. I mean, that is how I wrote my last book on genes, climate, and consumption. Why do we vary? In India, in food, shelter, clothing, basic necessities, where you have three cultural manifestations. I found fascinating that in our North India, where I come from, we have a paneer as a daily diet. In South India, paneer is conspicuously absent. South Indians don't have it. Why? Well, it turns out the same thing is true in Northern Europe versus Southern Europe. If you go to Northern Europe, the cheese will have a 40% fat content. If you come to the Mediterranean countries like Italy, Greece, etc., the fat content drops to 2.5. Feta cheese, mozzarella, parmesan are the three major varieties. It's very interesting. And you come closer to equator, the concept of cheese drops. In Mexico, it is avocado. It's all plant-based, or olive oil, or peanut oil. In South India, it is coconut oil. You need saturated fat in the body, but it's not the animal as a source. Now, the question is why? So then you study that, you become obsessed about that one. I studied for about 20 years. My curiosity began when I found, working at Coca-Cola International, why some countries consume only 64 bottles of Coca-Cola, other countries 400 bottles per capita. That's a lot of Coca-Cola, twice a day. And why? Why some countries? So we found all managers of theories, and ultimately we did a lot of data analysis, about 55 countries as our observation, and we found two factors that explains 93% of the variation. The most common factor was climate. Coca-Cola sells very well in warmer climate, not in colder climate. Coca-Cola does very well with young people, not older people. So if you're a colder country and older population, you will have less consumption. If you're a warmer country and younger people, you'll have more consumption, no matter what beverage you compete with. Wine, beer, doesn't make any difference. And so Sweden was the lowest and Mexico was the highest. Isn't that interesting? So that led me to my second year, I think, my geography class. Professor was very good when I was studying that in Madras, in Chennai. He talked about economic geography, and I still remember that. And I connected the dot and began to study, therefore, the gene migration theory. As the genes migrated from Africa to further north, they had to adapt to survive. So their arteries are wider, Scandinavian arteries are wider. They don't have vegetation, so they have to survive on animal and fish. So they have much more diet, which is what we call meat and potatoes, whereas in warmer climate, we have plant-based diets. And meat is like a supplement to a main meal, which is mostly vegetation, plant-based, which is becoming more common. And it's fascinating theory, but that's true of clothing. For example, Northern Europeans' only raw material for clothing would be leather and wool, because they have no vegetation. Both are harmful materials in a tropical country. So ours is cotton, linen, etc. We wear loose-fitting clothes, one layer only. Scandinavians will have 3 layers put together to insulate themselves. Color preferences. Northern Europeans only wear pastel colors because they don't have any vegetable dyes to mimic. Warm climate, Indian saris, to African native dress, to Mexican dress, it's all the same, highly colorful. It's sort of the in thing to do more colorful, whereas Scandinavians will look down on you if you have more Hawaiian shirt. All these things I learned quite a lot. To me, that was a great journey of learning, and that keeps you going. What keeps you going is learning for new knowledge, hopefully contributing to that knowledge, your own perspective, etc. And that's what we do, and that's why we still continue. I hope I've answered the question. Health is more difficult because we live in a sedentary life. Unless you go back to our yoga approach to living, where you go out of your way as an older population, daily exercises, sort of a milder, not very heavy, I think health can deteriorate faster. But otherwise, we are okay. I hope I've given you the answer. I don't know.
Enough, sir. Plenty. Plenty of learning within 5 minutes.
Thank you.
I also see Professor Sahai has raised his hand. Sir, you would like to ask something to...
Swanjan, looking at the time, may I request that this may possibly be the last question, because we have actually utilized more of Jagdish Sheth's time than we requested for.
So, Professor Sahai, where are you?
Sir, please
He's at
unmute yourself.
Bahama Beach.
Okay, I am. Okay. Are you able to hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. So you gave us a lot of tips about learning. I want to have some tips about unlearning, because this fast changing world, we need
very
to
important.
unlearn many things.
So, I mean, it's an excellent question, by the way, because on the way to doing our doctoral education, we have innocently accepted many propositions or perspectives, some theories, some laws. We believe that. And it starts actually from family when you are young, certain belief systems, where they come from. They can come from faith or clan or whatever it is. And then it amplifies by the school that you go to, and of course when you go to college. Because in college, we basically give them more prescriptive approach. There's only one answer. This is the answer kind of a notion. So we narrow down multiple perspectives to a single perspective, which often may be a true one, or it is challenged by new discoveries. I tell you, I find fascinating. It's a great question. I must tell you, thank you so much. For example, we believe that physics is invariant knowledge science. Today, physics professors are questioning whether the world is three-dimensional. Einstein challenged that, came out with the whole time as a dimension, for example. And today, people say we still have to learn quite a lot. The quark theory that's coming about is radically shifting the knowledge altogether. We thought we knew quite a lot about the coronaviruses. This new virus has taught us we don't know enough. There may be hundreds of those viruses, right? The only way you can unlearn is primarily to basically have tolerance for other perspectives. And I will make a comment here. I'm using the forum to make my own comment. This is my big worry about our academic journals. Academic journals are controlled by the reviewers and the editor, and they have a given perspective on a technique. Today it may be factor analysis, tomorrow it is logit probit, tomorrow it may be, structural equations, and if you don't have it, you are not good enough, kind of stuff. So we constrained people toward a single perspective and monolithic view of the world because it's easy. But what we have to do is to have a multiple perspectives and in the process be tolerant of alternate views. Basically, it is called in academic world orthodoxy. If you wanted to study this well, there is one philosopher whose book is very good. I sort of add to my doctoral seminars, Thomas Kuhn, Kuhn.
Yeah.
It's called a paradigm shift. Paradigm shift really says there is a dissension out there. People are questioning prevailing wisdom, which is codified very well. It's easy to teach, easy to do research. Then somebody like a rebel comes and says, no, it's just like a disruption by the digital guys, Incumbents fail, and the digital guys come in, disrupt the whole thing. Same thing happens in knowledge. But I found his thinking very valuable. Among philosophers, Kuhn was very right about paradigm shift. And in management, we are going through paradigm shift for one reason. The external factors are changing faster than our knowledge. Half-life of knowledge is now less than 3 years in software. 3 years ago, a software that you studied will be obsolete or half-life. Its half-life of management is only 18 months. Whatever we studied 18 months or we taught, its half-life is gone. Those concepts are no longer relevant. And that's my big worry, that by the time we graduate an MBA, his or her knowledge half is only valuable. The world has moved on so much, as Sridhar mentioned, but technology impact, for example, it's India rising. The geopolitics are changing so much. They are contextual discipline management. So it is very important for us to have more open mind and embrace newer ideas. And the only way we can embrace is to teach that alternate view rather than our own view. And that's the only way. So, yeah, I'm a Jain. And in Jainism, one of the tenets is called Anekantvad, like a five blind men touching the elephant, right? Which is the old fable that we have in Hinduism tradition. If I touch the tail, I think it's a rope. If I touch the trunk, we think it's a tree. If I touch the snoot or the thing, we think it's a snake. All are right, but limited right, So the answer is, and by the way, this is very important. I have debated this. Logic is founded on true and false. All mathematics comes from only two underlying constructs: addition and division. This theory says that you are true and you are true and you are true. There is no falsehood, which is a huge, huge problem. We think just because it doesn't agree with our perspective and our experience and our evidence, it should be false. Extrasensory perception. We said it's not there just because we have not researched. I mean, I can go on giving you examples. There is so much of unexplained behavior in the world. I mean, planets, they are discovering newer galaxies than ever before. All theories are gone. Just now they're doing dating, carbon dating of the vegetation and the plants and the people. Evolution of human mankind is now questioned in the way we thought about it. There were people in North America 700,000 years ago. They just discovered that. And they're saying the migration theory about how America was formed by the native at one time is probably wrong. I think having this view and a confidence, or having a confidence to say, I can accept an alternate view. I don't have to lock into my view or my professor's view that I studied, for example. And then you become a top scientist. Not challenging necessarily, but unlearning. I think that's a great question, Dr. Sahai. I think you made a great point. We have to do more unlearning nowadays than learning, given the rapid that's taking.
Thank you, sir.
Great, sir. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much.
Thank you very much, Professor Jagdish Shetty. It has been really awesome listening to you. We have our new batch of scholars pouring in the chat box, and they're saying that it's been inspiring and motivating to listen to you. Thank you so much. May I please request Professor Arvind Shukla now to please address the audience. Sir, you have not spoken yet, and in the presence of this amazing insights that Professor Jagdish Shetty has shared, would you like to say a few things to our new batch and to the audience?
Well, it's a very awkward time to come in and say something to the new batch when the god of research himself has spoken. Ordinary mortals like me actually find it very difficult to say anything. However, being the type of person that I am, in the presence of Professor Seth, I would tell my new scholars this was all that I was going to tell you. But since Professor Seth has himself This Professor Seth has himself said all this, I need not repeat it now. Thank you so much. There are many more opportunities that I will be speaking to them. Let us not put in any more time for me to speak and go ahead with the further proceedings of the day.
Yes, Gayatri, over to you.
Thank you, Professor. Quoting John Kennedy, leadership and learning are indispensable to each other. And culminating both, we have the thought leader, Dr. Jagdish Shet, and we have our director, Sir Dr. Harivansh Chaturvedi, here with us. Thank you so much, sir, for sparing your time and sharing your experience and advice with the scholars. It will go a long way in guiding us. Now that we reach towards the end of the commencement of this orientation program, may I request Dr. Shubhanjan to close the ceremony with a vote of thanks.
Yes, thank you, Gayatri. Thank you so much. Well, I believe we had a very interesting, and even though in terms of physical distance, we're spread across the country, and Professor Seth is connecting to us from across the other side of the globe. It's been a wonderful session. I believe it's been lovely to hear to this interaction. As a vote of thanks, I think I would first say I really thank Professor Jagdish Shet for taking your time out in your busy schedule and really showing the true face of research and scholarly academic, and what it has to contribute, and the journey in which this young these fellows are going to embark on. So some of the things that Professor Sheth has said is, it's very important as a takeaway, that being a student forever, this is a journey about unleashing the human capability in order to contribute back to society through generating scientific knowledge. Professor Sheth spoke about empathy and enthusiasm, learning by listening. And these are some very important insights and advice that Professor Sheth has given to the new batch. Adding to that, his advice on a focus towards creating newsworthy evidence-based knowledge. I think that's a great great input that Professor Sheth is giving to the new batch, and I'm sure they will keep that in mind, because at the end of the day, which Professor Sheth rightfully said, it's about doing well by doing good. And how do we as researchers contribute to that? It's been so important. To thank you so much, Professor Sheth, for telling our scholars that a lot of growth is going to happen through participation in research activities, networking, a teamwork. Research is all collaborative. It's not an individual exercise. It's co-created, and that is something you have really given to our scholars. And then the most important thing, passion. Without that passion, there will be early burnout, and it is very challenging to satisfy oneself that no, I'm able to do something which I thought I would like to achieve. And then finally, sir, you spoke about obsession to learning, and I think that is something which all the scholars here will really need to take away with them at the end of this session. Thank you, Director Sir. Thank you so much for inspiring the students by sharing what is it that brought Dr. Jagdish Shetty towards being such a legend, the depth that a scholar needs to have. And that is something that you really brought forth for us, a new batch, to understand. Professor Sahai, thank you so much for telling our new batch about the many dimensions in research, and what is it that makes research multidisciplinary. You also spoke about the fact that they are all students now, so there's a process of unlearning and relearning, something that we just heard about. And you also spoke about open-mindedness. Thank you so much for bringing that to the knowledge and to the awareness of the new batch. But then, of course, this entire program is not successful unless we really appreciate the work of a lot of people in order to make this happen. Thank you, Ms. Laiti Tiwari, for conducting this program. You have been a great support in planning this and organizing this. And definitely thanks to Professor Arvind Shukla for your guidance and leadership and continuous support in getting this organized. I would really like to thank Professor Chari, who is the Dean of Student Welfare, and Professor Kapil Garg for organizing the IT and the administrative support back at the campus, because that is so important in order to make this successful. And last but definitely not the least, I want to thank all the BIMTech faculty who are here: Professor Anupam Verma, Professor Jagdish Shettigar, Professor Patel, Professor Chattaraj, Professor Gagan Katiyar, Professor Rahul Singh, Professor Girish Jain, Professor Amarnath Bose, Professor Anuj Sharma, Professor Kanindra Das, Professor Naveen Srivastava, Professor A.K. Day, Professor Amrendra Pandey, and Professor Monica Mittal. Thank you so much for being here. And last but definitely not the least, our present batch of scholars and our alumni of the fellow program for being here and for supporting this program. And thank you so much, the new batch. I think this is the start of a great journey. You're going to enjoy it with all the nuances that it comes with it. And thank you so much, Professor Jagdish Shetty, once again. Thank you, everybody, for being here and for making this a memory to live with.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, Professor Zaid.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Jagdish sir,
Bye.
thank you so much. And it's
Thank
really
you.
honor for us to meeting you.
So I believe we all sense a journey of introspection and knowledge ahead of us. Thank you so much, Professor Sheth, for being there with us. Thank you so much, Director Sir. We sign off today with the hope to commence one of the most professionally and personally rewarding journey for all our scholars. Thank you and stay safe and stay well.
Yeah. Professor
Thank
Sheth,
you.
the chat box is pouring in with a lot of wishes for you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you again so much. It means a lot. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Sir, thank you so much.
Ranjan, can you stay back?
Yes, sir. I'll stay back, sir.
अभी काफी लोग हैं.
They're still, people are still leaving, sir. They're in the. Professor Shukla has also left. Daitya, thank you so much. He's been a great help. Thank you.
Gayatri, you did a great job.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shiman. Thank you so much.
अभी 2-3 लोग और